talk about sort of media and marketing, I think there's sort of right now, obviously, media and marketing, marketers under being under major stress test, and the role of media marketing is sort of evolving overall anyway. But also right now, the role of media marketing within the overall sales drivers will depend on what sector you're in. Now, I'd love to start with Ajay. From your perspective at Kellogg's as an organization, how do you continue to think about media and marketing within the overall sales drivers?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. Thank you, Claudia. I like the title of the book, Chris. I think as an organization, it's very typical to any other organization, right? We want to drive awareness, we want to drive saliency, but at the same time, you want to create that long-lasting effect on your consumers and your shoppers. So these are, if I was to describe it in one sentence, it would be driving awareness and saliency, but obviously there is a lot more to it, which is where I think the help from Chris and game theory and the extended team comes in, which is how you utilize the data to A, have that lasting effect, and B, also have a high profit ROI as such. So your return is also there. So when you are asking for those marketing and media investments, you're driving awareness, but you're being profitable at the same time. And I could take an example from our strategy as such, right? So we have a deploy for growth strategy within Kellogg, and one of the growth boosters within that strategy is called building world-class brands. And media and marketing is one of the levers that we kind of utilize for those kind of growth boosters as such. So yeah, it's a key lever. It's in our strategy and it's built in. So it's from, at least this is from Kellogg's perspective.
Fantastic, brilliant. Thanks, Ajay. Now, Chris, from your perspective, from a broad perspective of the media landscape, but also what the role of media marketing from an effectiveness standpoint. What are your thoughts there in terms of how media marketing can affect sales drivers now, perhaps compared to pre-COVID?
It's interesting. There's clearly been changes in how media and marketing can affect sales at the moment. Inevitably, some businesses were shut completely for 2-3 months in the UK, and similar stories around Europe and the globe. And clearly, bricks and mortar related business, you're not going to be selling anything. Other businesses did really well, at least in some stages of lockdown. Staple products, things that people needed to buy, things that they still could buy, clearly did very well, at least in those initial stages. I mean, we're kind of seeing three sort of time horizons through this sort of COVID-19 period, and one was that sort of initial lockdown period, the 2, 3, 4 weeks around when restrictions came in, not just in the UK, but as I say, sort of much wider than that, and what was happening then. And some companies, people were rushing out to sort of panic buy, stockpile goods, pantry stocking, getting as much as they could in that period. In the short term, some companies did very well. Other companies, clearly, because they were closed, did not. In that second period, it's more about the medium term. What happens after that initial rush out to buy products? This was in sort of the April, sort of May period. Some businesses were still closed. Others had opened, were continuing to sell, but they might have been selling less because of sort of stockpiling that was happening initially. But at the same time, you've got many more people working from home. Their consumption patterns have changed. And then almost most importantly is how this is going to play out over the next 6 months, next year, 2 years, 5 years, this much longer term. And that's going to be critical for now. Recession coming, we'll talk about that more later on, I'm sure. But you've got 3 distinct periods about what the underlying sort of dynamics of the market have shifted in different companies. And sort of commentators, people in our industry have been saying sort of two things in this period, where it seems to me that one is that don't cut your brand marketing spend. You need to sort of spend your way out of this period. That's great, but the finance director might not agree with you. And the second is around accelerate your digital transformation, bring things online to make sure that you can sort of harvest the demand where that lies. clearly at the moment we don't know how that longer term is playing out. That will come up in sort of the weeks and months to come. But I think overridingly, things can work the same. The fundamentals haven't shifted, but work out what has changed for your business over the next sort of 6 to 12 months. Are people still going to desire your products? Is there a way that you can sort of spend your way out, pushing people online or whatever? And clearly, when it comes to finding out what's most important over this period, the words of the WHO chief at the start of all this: test, test, test. This is going to be critical to find out what is working. Are the fundamentals still applying in your business, and how do you sort of optimize into the future?
That's great, fantastic, and you picked up on a couple of things there, and especially around sort of what consumers want, the different phases, and I'm curious, Ajay, around what initiatives Kellogg's have been looking at from a kind of empathetic marketing point of view. If you can tell us a little bit more about that, be quite curious to hear a bit more about that one.
Absolutely. I think I'll touch slightly upon what Chris was saying around post-COVID, right? So obviously our products are more appealing to consumers and shoppers now because obviously they are safe, they are hygiene, they are well-known products for like over 100 years. So when you have these kind of attributes associated to the food offering that you're putting out in the market, then you're not limited to just driving value for the organization. And specifically in the time of this post-COVID, as Chris mentioned about the point, during this post-COVID, it's not just about value. Our products are anyways appealing, and we can see the in-home consumption is increasing. Obviously, the sales are increasing. We can see all of that working. So, what is our way from marketing to give back to the community, to do our corporate social responsibility as such? So, you probably might have come across the campaign that we recently did around Raise Your Bowl for the frontline workers for NHS. Mm-hmm. Right. So this was a campaign that was just focusing. It's not about Kellogg's. It's focusing purely around, your corporate social responsibility. And our CEO Steve Callahan, he recently talked about in the financial earnings call about the 17 million donations that Kellogg's has made for the people that are in need during these pandemic times. So marketing is not just about selling, driving value for the organization, getting a high ROI, and creating that lasting effect. It's a combination of other things as well. Its holistic view is inclusive of your corporate social responsibility and the other things that Chris and you mentioned before. So, yeah, I think that's where the crux of the story is in terms of marketing, I would say.
That's brilliant, fantastic, Ajay. And I think you're right. There is almost marketing for good. There's a role for brands to play in the wider community and give something back. And I think with a brand such as Kellogg's, as established, as loved, with as much heritage as Kellogg has, there's almost a inherent duty and expectations that consumers have, of a brand such as Kellogg's, to have community in mind. So marketing for good, I think, is a beautiful thing going beyond the sales KPIs.